Anthony Davis pulls his team out of the seventh circle of hell. The NBA is investigating Ja Morant again, and the New York Knicks are struggling to separate themselves in the East. No, you have not time traveled to the year 2023. Time is a flat circle today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets, and I'm your shot clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories every day with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network. He's our man of 1,000 podcasts, Matt Moore. Matt?
The Cavs' magic number for the 1 seed is 2. That's because the Celtics can still tie them for conference record, and they split the regular season head-to-head. So I had to go all the way to record versus Eastern Conference playoff teams, which the Celtics can still catch up on, and therefore the Cavaliers' magic number remains 2. This is what I'm doing with my days, Doug.
I don't know whether to be amazed or apologize. I'm not sure.
Sad, I think, is like pitied is probably the way to go.
All right, what do you think, Hayes? We've got from the Locked On Bulls podcast, our Prince of Petty, it's Hayes.
Going on, everybody? Glad to have everybody here today. And I have to say, unfortunately, this pains my soul. The Clippers have a legitimate chance in the Western Conference.
Ooh.
Whoa! Their magic number is Hayes. All right, let's go to our first topic today. It's big news right now around the NBA. They are investigating the Memphis Grizzlies guard Ja Morant again. Here's Locked On Grizzlies with the details.
Antronia on X. The NBA is looking into Memphis's Ja Morant using finger gun motions toward the Golden State Warriors bench last night, sources tell me and Tim McMahon. The league's probe will also look into a gesture by Warriors guard Buddy Hield ahead of Morant, sources said.
I don't think much will come of it. It could be some type of warning or whatever the case may be, because additional context here. It's a celebration. LeBron has done certain, iterations of gun celebrations in the past. Dyson Daniels has done, a gun celebration. Ja Morant, Scottie Pippen Jr., several other Grizzlies players sometimes, get involved with it as well. It's just a celebration. What made this situation different and why it's gained the traction that it has is because Ja Morant was walking to the Grizzlies bench, and he's looking back at the Warriors bench, and Buddy Hield's looking towards him, and they're both kind of doing the little gun celebration or whatever you want to call it towards one another. Maybe the league is more serious about these finger gun things or whatever the case.
So, Matt, you were right. Joe Mullinax, host of Locked On Grizzlies, was mad. I just didn't air that portion of the clip. I went for DeMichael Cole's more measured analysis. But if you want to hear Joe Mullinax being mad, go check out Locked On Grizzlies. Hayes, I want to know, is this much ado about nothing, or should the NBA take a closer look, a harsher stand, considering Ja Morant's past issues related to guns?
I think that's what this is mostly about, is Ja Morant's past issues. I don't think this is really much to do about anything. Everybody does a version of that after they make a three-pointer. Here, Josh Giddey does it all the time. Every time he makes a three-pointer, which surprisingly has been a lot for Chicago this year, he does a similar version of that. So I don't personally think it's anything egregious or anything that needs to be fined or anything like that. I'm glad that they end up only being issued warnings. But to me, it just seems like something. It has to be more about what Ja's done in his past than I think as serious as what happened here, personally.
Hayes, when you throw a basketball at the hoop, what's that called?
Shooting.
It's called shooting. When we talk about what a player is, when like, oh yeah, he's an elite guy that throws ball at rim. No, we call him an elite shooter. Like, it's built into the language of basketball. I'm of two minds here, because on the one hand, this is not a celebration that only Ja has participated in. It's done in college. Hield did it in the same game. Now, Hield's being looked at too. The problem was that Shams Charania didn't report Memphis's Ja Morant and Golden State's Buddy Hield. Shams reported Ja Morant. And then later, oh, by the way, Buddy Hield too. That's bad journalism. I'll just say that right now. It's bad journalism because it paints the picture of a difference of what's actually occurring here. On the other hand, Ja continues to have no self-awareness of the problems that he created 2 years ago that have continued to have ripple effects, including getting Taylor Jenkins fired, based off of his decisions on Instagram. Like, you can't joke around with this stuff with the league. They're being very serious. Now, I do think that in general, the league is too cautionary. The fact that guys can't do the throat slit makes me just as mad, because I think that's like the coolest celebration in sports is if you hit a shot and you do, like, it's over. That's like the best. I think that's such a cool kind of celebration that does not mean anything nefarious. The problem is, like, with Ja, the implication is that it could because of his past actions. So I don't know how to solve this. All I do know is, like, the bigger problem is, like, Ja needs to be more self-aware and probably take a little bit better responsibility to rehab his image so the league doesn't react like this and we not present things as like Ja Morant, finger guns, also Buddy Hield. Those are a few of the problems I have with the situation.
So both of you, neither of you are really taking the stand here that these kind of celebrations need to be eradicated from the NBA, that it's a glorification of gun violence or anything like that. Neither of you are there because the NBA, as Matt noted there, has taken action on not only the throat slit celebration, but also Sam Cassell's famous celebration. Like, they have come down and said, you cannot celebrate in certain ways. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for them to look at this and say, hey, we've taken action against players for actual, guns. And so maybe we don't want those celebrations in our game. Oh, Matt.
Yeah. I mean, this goes back to, like, the Gilbert Arenas stuff is still such a scar on the league. It's still just like, that was a terrifying situation, man. Like, that was a terrifying situation for a lot of people. And the players would be like, most players have guns for a number of reasons, for security purposes, right? Like, they make a lot of money and are out in public and they want to feel safe. That's a whole other bag of, like, that's a whole other thing. But, like, you don't want to promote yourself as a league where there's real threats. Like, you don't want to promote yourself as a league where that can happen. You don't want to put, the other thing is, like, you don't want people feeling unsafe. But my question here is, like, does any Memphis Grizzlies employee feel unsafe because of Ja Morant doing finger guns? Probably not.
All right, let's move to someone that was doing well on the court last night. Anthony Davis delivering a stellar performance, leading the Dallas Mavericks to a 120-118 victory over the Atlanta Hawks. Despite suffering an eye injury in the first quarter that required stitches, he delivered a game-winning floater with 3.4 seconds remaining. Here's Locked On Mavericks, a show that Anthony Davis might actually be watching.
Yesterday on the show, we talked about, Anthony Davis, he's coming back from this injury. He's averaging like 14 points a game. He's shooting like 38% from the field. Called him out after the Nets game. Scores 12 points, and the Mavs lose to a Nets team that you were favored by. You've got to win that game. If you're the star and you're going to play, you've got to be better. Well, Anthony Davis was better, and was better than everybody on the court, and it was exactly what the Mavericks needed. He was absolutely a monster in almost every facet of the game in this one. 34 points, 15 boards, 2 assists, 5 blocks in this one, and he was absolutely massive, including that game winner. That was just, that's what Anthony Davis can bring to a team. If he's bigger than you, he can get a good shot against you at any point, because he can drive, he can handle, he can get to a spot, he can pull up, and he can get just a little floater right there on a Okongwu. He was killing a Okongwu all night, and he ended the game with that game winner right there.
All right, so they have a version of Anthony Davis back that they've wanted. They've got Derek Lively back in the rotation as well. They are currently 1.5 games ahead of the Kings for the 9th seed. Matt, are you buying them as a contender to come out of the West play-in, not a contender in the Western Conference playoffs, but just a contender to come out of the play-in? And what would you need to see to close this season to give you any level of confidence that the Mavs can work themselves into an overall contender whenever Kyrie Irving gets healthy again?
I mean, we're talking March of next year for Kyrie. Look, if they play the Atlanta Hawks in the play-in, I think they're very live. Like, if the Mavericks can just get the Hawks in that Western Conference play-in tournament, and if the Warriors can get the Bucks, we could come on, guys.
Some people want that. Some people want that kind of scenario. They want the East and West to come together.
I'm not opposed to it. So I think, look, they could probably make it just because like the Clippers and Wolves and also the Warriors are all a little bit flawed. And so like, I think AD can take advantage of these matchups where he, like, as Nick mentioned, when he has a size advantage. I'm just not sure that that's going to happen. Like if Ivica Zubac is not Onyeka Okongwu, and I just, Rudy Gobert is not Onyeka Okongwu. Sorry. And so it's a little bit different for where I'm at. Going next year, I mean, I thought they were pretty dangerous when they had Kyrie and AD. It's less a matter of like, they're not going to be like a super contender. They're not going to be like a top 3 seed winning 55 games in the Western Conference. They can be one of these teams where it's like, yeah, hey, if things go right for them, they could be like, that's the best they can hope for, Hayes, versus, what they could have had with, I don't know, say like a 6'7" playmaking, great shooting combo forward with conditioning issues. Probably had a little bit of a higher ceiling with that construction.
Yeah, I mean, what does a perennial MVP candidate really do for your team? Like, what does it really do for your team? But the Mavs coming into a new season with this roster, making slight changes that they can go out there and do some of that. They could be a team that can get some wins in the West. To Matt's point, like I don't see them as a contender or anything like that. But this is a team that, that maybe they can surprise some teams if fully healthy. That's still a big if on how often AD is going to be able to stay healthy and things like that. But seeing AD play this way, this is the what Nico Harrison tried to push when he talked about why he wanted AD on this team over Luka. It still doesn't make any sense. But you could start seeing maybe what he's getting at. I think they're capped out. They're going to be a playing team. They're going to be sometimes a fun team to watch. They're going to beat some teams really good at times when they have matchup advantages. But this team doesn't have nearly the ceiling that it had coming into the season with Luka on the roster.
All right, coming up, it's glass check time. We go half full or half empty on the New York Knicks, LaMelo Ball, and Joel Embiid. Really the big three for the Philadelphia 76ers in its entirety. We've got lots of injury updates ahead on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by FanDuel. The spirit of March Madness is still here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from the remaining. Hopefully, we get some buzzer beaters in this Final Four to dominant performances by certain future number 1 overall selections in this year's NBA draft. Hello, Cooper Flagg, and even who's cutting down the nets. Got your eye on maybe one of these. Look, there's still going to be a favorite and an upset, despite the fact that it's all number 1 seeds in the tournament right now. So maybe you can still get an upset special. FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. Tournament games, they're still happening, and there's always something exciting to bet on. And best of all, the FanDuel app is simple to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com today and get in on the college hoops action while you still can. And maybe some baseball, maybe some basketball. We're going to be talking awards later on in the show. This episode is also sponsored by our friends at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center with all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. You can go beyond just managing money and start actually building wealth. You might be surprised at how much you're spending on things like food delivery or streaming subscriptions. My family uses Monarch Money, and we were certainly shocked at how much we were spending on those things. With Monarch, you'll see exactly where your money is going so you can budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, Monarch makes it easy to check your finances, track spending, and even plan for long-term goals all in one place. And if you're managing money with a partner, it's never been smoother. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals together, and stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's a great deal. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. The New York Knicks, their recent woes continued last night as they suffered a 124-105 defeat to the Cleveland Cavaliers, extending their record to 0-8 against the NBA's top 3 teams this season. Let's throw it out to Locked On Knicks for more.
New York Knicks still could not beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. They put up a heck of a fight in the first half, kind of died in the second. Do you want to be glass half full or glass half empty?
If we want to look at the glass half full first, like OG Anunoby had a hell of a first half, 19 points. It was hitting from deep early, which that was encouraging. I mean, still as it stands, 5 of 8 from 3. It was just the Knicks couldn't get anything going in the second half. What was a pretty nice flowing offense in the first half, maybe minus like Mikal Bridges was kind of back to being a little too passive again, which you don't love to see. You know, other than that, the offense was running pretty well in the first half.
You don't have your top 3 point guards. Obviously, the self-created offense from Brunson, but even the way that Campaign has used the offense with his willingness to get up threes, with his ability to attack closeouts and attack gaps, his ability to run pick and roll. They really missed that. I think they really missed Mitchell Robinson in this game. That is just a lot to overcome.
All right, glass half empty, glass half full. New York Knicks, their ability to figure things out, get healthy once they get into the postseason. Hayes.
I'll go glass half full here just because it's just me personally liking a lot of their roster, but I don't feel very strong about it. I guess it's where it's glass half full rather than just being full. The Knicks got some problems. They got some serious issues here, and maybe being fully healthy can help them correct that. I still, like I said, I like a lot of their roster. I love Jalen Brunson. He's a player that I absolutely love, but it just seems like this New York Knicks team is missing something, and I don't quite know what that it is right now.
Yeah, hopes and dreams ain't going to get you there. I'm going to go half empty. I just look. Their defense has actually still been better without Brunson, and that makes sense. And it's not like they're not better without Jalen. This is the problem: is that they're elite offensively with Jalen and Cat, but they can't defend anybody. You take Cat or Jalen off the floor, and they can get stops with Wingstop, but they can't create enough offense, even with OG playing really well. Thibs is such a well-respected coach and deserves it. He has dedicated his life to this game, so I don't like coming in here and dragging him. You have to tell me that they have some sort of secret plan. Like, you have to tell me that they're going to come up with a strategy that is outside the box to solve these problems. They can't play base defense. Their base level of defense is bad, so it's not going to be good enough versus the Cavs and the Celtics. If you told me that you had a very inventive coach that was willing to get outside the box, create different lineups, bench whoever, do whatever necessary to create it, instead of just being like, we just need to execute harder, let's just play the starters 100 minutes, then I would feel better about it. But that's who they got. And Thibs is responsible for so much of their success, but unless he becomes an entirely different coach in the next month, they're going home no later than the second round.
What makes it interesting that they lose to the Cleveland Cavaliers, a team with Kenny Atkinson, who we've heard Danny Cunningham praise a lot on this show for his creativity, and praise the Cavaliers in general for being able to lose one of their better players for a game and still pull it out. And the Knicks, they can't seem to do that without Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, and this has always been the Thibs thing. They have one gear, and it's a high gear, and it wins you a lot of games. You got to be able to throttle up and down. And they can't throttle down, which means they almost never lose, like regular season wise, unless they're facing one of these elite teams, and they never go above. If you're going to be a team he wants his team to be the Cavaliers, right? But they don't have the ability with the roster. It's a roster problem that holds them back. If Thibs gets a team that is that good defensively and offensively, you get the 2011 Bulls that made the Eastern Conference Finals and then got LeBron. Like, not his fault that LeBron has a higher gear than everybody else. But like, that's the problem, is like your gear is so consistent and it will win you so many regular season games. You got to have something extra in the playoffs. And Thibs' teams are designed to play to the same level all the time.
They need one of those chefs that can win Chopped on Food Network. And instead they've got a top chef who, you give them all the ingredients and everything's fine. But they need someone who can get like a rotted apple in their basket and turn it into apple pie.
Yes, 100%.
All right, let's speaking of throttling up and throttling down, let's move to a team that has throttled all the way down. The Philadelphia 76ers. Injury updates abound for them. Shams tweeting just a few minutes before we tape here on Thursday that Tyrese Maxey is expected to be ruled out for the rest of the season with a finger tendon injury. Sources tell ESPN Maxey has been sidelined since March 3rd and has attempted to rehab the finger but is still dealing with discomfort and needs treatment. And according to a statement from the 76ers, Joel Embiid will undergo arthroscopic surgery next week to address his left knee. Half empty, half full. These Philadelphia 76ers big three will include Paul George in this, who is also out for the season, getting healthy and helping Philly compete in the East next season, Matt.
I could see him bouncing back and being a 3 seed, maybe a 4, and then being like, look out if they're healthy, and we do the whole song and dance again. I think they need a black swan event. Maybe that's Jared McCain. Maybe that's the lottery. Maybe it's a trade. They need a black swan event, an inherently unpredictable event to occur that we look back and go like, oh man, didn't see that coming. So it can't be actually any of the things I listed because those wouldn't be black swans because I predicted it. Like, it's got to be something that we don't see coming that changes the direction of this franchise. That to me is the only way they get there, whether it's with Paul George, Embiid, etc. Maybe if they add like another guy just emerges. I don't know what that is. A new coach, maybe. I don't know. But to me, I can't understand at this point running it back, but then look around you and like the Pels are probably running it back, etc. Teams are really reluctant to give up on formulas that could work regardless of whether they do or not.
Hayes?
What if that black swan event is Joel Embiid staying healthy? Just to throw it out there. What if that is the black swan event, that Joel Embiid after the surgery actually stays healthy and is the Joel Embiid that we've seen flashes of throughout his career? What if that's the black swan event?
Then they lose in the second round like they have every time. Like, that's the problem.
And these medical updates, both with Maxey and Embiid, seem a little vague. And I think one has to reasonably wonder if they are doing enough with Joel Embiid with this procedure to ensure his long-term health, or if this is just another Band-Aid that is going to unravel on them next season.
I don't have I don't have any insight into the medical process. And for this, it's like, look, I think there's a scenario where Joel does get healthy and does what Hayes says, right? And to be fair, I wanted to say this, like when they have lost in the second round, you could point to various injuries he sustained, wrist injuries. He had, what was it? Palsy? Is that like what he contracted?
Bell's palsy? Yeah.
Bell's palsy. Like he had, all these things have happened to him that were random on top of all of his other injuries. I just don't, it's to me, this is such an it's a known unknown. It's just like, yeah, I have no idea. Like he could come back and be the best player in the league for 2 years. He could never be able to play meaningful basketball again. And that uncertainty, I think, it sucks not only for the league and Joel, and especially sucks the most for Joel, to be clear, but it also sucks, I think, for the fans that are constantly left in limbo. Being in that limbo state, I think, is the most emotionally draining part in all of fandom.
All right, coming up on Locked On NBA, we do some anti-awards talk, and last night there were some upside-down results. Miami blowing out Boston for their 6th straight victory. Denver resting everyone despite being in a Western Conference seed race. I'm going to ask Matt and Hayes their thoughts on that coming up on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings, it snuck up on us again, that old so-and-so. It might be spring, but maybe you've lost the spring in your step. If you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy, it has your back. The extra sunshine, it means more time for fun, but sometimes you're going to need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, we've got extra innings baseball. The Western Conference 3rd seed is battling it out right now. Or maybe just a round of golf after work, or you're just keeping up with your busy day. 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Don't let the long days wear you out. 5 Hour Energy helps you stay sharp and focused, whether you're catching every moment of the tournament, getting outside for a hike, or tackling a packed schedule. It's small, convenient, and ready whenever you are. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors, including watermelon, blue raspberry, that's my favorite, and peach mango. Build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Whoa! Need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy at your local grocery or convenience store. Stock up today. Get energized with 5-Hour Energy. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Last night, the action, it was a little upside down. Miami blows out Boston for their 6th straight win after losing 10 straight. Denver rested nearly every major rotation piece, and they drop a game to the San Antonio Spurs, and they lose a position in the West to the Los Angeles Lakers. Matt, are you disappointed with either of these teams? And if it's both of these teams, who are you more disappointed in for letting go of the rope this late in the season?
I just need to go check out Locked On Celtics to see if John says, just take a moment and breathe in this team and the best loss of the season, like whatever it is that John's going to say. You know what? Here's the thing. The Nuggets didn't really have a choice. Double overtime versus the Wolves team. They have planned on getting, it is very clear if you look back at the rest patterns, they're getting guys rest intentionally. MPJ's dealing with a personal issue, so I think he probably plays last night. That's not going on. I thought Jamal might give it a go, but I wasn't surprised that they got to rest Aaron Gordon on these back-to-backs. It's just really important. I think I'm more disappointed in Denver because their bench is so bad they can't get past the Spurs, right? Like a very good comparison here is the Blazers are better than the Spurs right now. Like the Blazers, when they play the Thunder, are better than the Spurs are right now. And the Thunder rested all 5 guys and waxed the Blazers. And that, to me, shows you the gap between OKC and a team like Denver has.
No, I agree. The Denver, you would have liked to think that they can get past. Well, I can't say that I'm necessarily disappointed in them. At this point in the season, rest is probably more important for a team like Denver, especially gearing up for a playoff run. Boston, on the other hand, I don't know if I'm necessarily as disappointed in Boston either. I just look at like what Miami's doing right now and how good they're playing. I know they haven't beaten necessarily the best competition, but shout out to them for winning 6 games in a row. But there should be no reason why Boston loses against the Miami Heat, in my opinion. Like I get it, Miami's well coached, things like that, but I don't know. Overall, I don't really think I'm disappointed in either team. This place this season right now, I don't have disappointment to the playoffs.
But it's also a great reminder. Do you remember when they lost 9 in a row and like there were heat? I think Locked On Heat was doing this about they may not win another game for the rest of the season. Like that was a real conversation. And I just I'm going to keep stressing this over and over and over again. How you are playing right now is not how you're going to play in 2 weeks. It's not how you're going to play in the playoffs. Like you can't over-index these things. It's one of the things I'm really interested in with Memphis. Memphis has been at the bottom, at the absolute depths of hell for the last really 5 weeks. And I'm like, they're going to come out of it eventually. What happens when they do? And I don't know. But I think it's a really interesting question because whenever things look like they're that bad, everyone's like, well, that's just going to continue. And I'm like, that's not how this works. So I don't know how the playoff standings are going to work out, Doug, but I think it's a really interesting question because you can't overreact to how things feel in the moment in the regular season.
No, that's true. Jason Tatum goes 2 of 9 from 3 in this one. Derek White, 2 of 7. Jaylen Brown working through an injury, 2 of 6. Peyton Pritchard, 2 of 6. Torrey Craig, 0 of 3. And every time I turn around and see the Boston Celtics losing a game they shouldn't lose, it is so often due to the fact that they just did not hit the 10,000 threes that they shot. And the question for the playoffs is going to be, is it possible for them to do that for 4 games?
Yeah, look, I've been open about this. I'll continue saying it. I think Jason Tatum's having a fantastic, amazing season. I had him on the MVP straw poll ballot. I had him this week. That's how good I think he is. They don't need him. Like, I'm sorry, boss. That's not about how good Jason is. That's how your team's constructed. It's just the math, guys. That's it. It is everything. If there was something else, I could talk to you about a million different facets about Cleveland and the Knicks and the Nuggets and the Thunder and on down the line. It is one thing and one thing only with Boston. Do you win the math game? And if you don't, you're going to lose.
Hayes, do they need him?
Yes, I'll say yes. Yes, they need him. Come on, man.
For what?
Vibes, man.
It's all vibes.
I do think Jason's a better vibes guy than he gets credit for.
All right. Let's do a little award talk. Jason Tatum, he's up there in the MVP conversation. Not Not going to win it this season, but certainly around the MVP conversation. We do a lot of award talk on this show because awards are fun, at least to some of us. Here's Locked On Lakers with some interesting comments from Lakers head coach JJ Redick.
JJ Redick was asked, Andy, at practice Wednesday about Most Improved Player award, and specifically Austin Reeves.
His exact quote when told that Austin was in the mix for Most Improved Player: "I hate that award," and he said that he thinks the league has, quote, failed to define it. I think the spirit of it has been taken out of whack. I don't like that award. Just call it the high draft pick that is on a max contract and is now an all-star. Just call it that award. Who's that guy? That's what it's become. Being the third best player, their most important player on a championship level team or Western Conference level, like deep playoff run caliber team, really effing hard. I am now convinced Austin is at that level. Speaks to the improvement that he's had over the course of the season, and it's hard to do.
So, first to JJ Redick's idea that the most improved player is out of whack. Do you agree or disagree, Hayes?
Yes and no. I think last year, for example, not just because he's on my team, but like I think if you looked at who improved more from the season before between Kobe and Tyrese Maxey, Kobe improved drastically more in role, output, and everything over Tyrese Maxey last year, but it went to Maxey because he was an all-star, all the type of things. He put up numbers, team won more games. So I think that the definition of most improved is so much variance in that it can go a lot of different ways depending on the season. So I do think it is a little bit out of whack personally.
Yeah, I don't like I'm with JJ that I don't like where we've gotten to, where Cade Cunningham was a number one overall pick that anyone that really did the research knew was going to be awesome. And anyone that paid attention to the back half of last year knew he was going to be great this year and he's going to win. Mm-hmm. Like, is Cade's jump? The problem with the award is the phrasing of it, I think in a lot of people suggest a surprise, most surprisingly improved player, like Dyson Daniels, who we were all like, yeah, he's like a guy, but like, who cares? And now it's like, oh, hey, like he's the best steal artist in the league and he's like a viable starter. That's a huge jump for Dyson. I would vote for Tyler Hero because Tyler Hero was like a guy that everybody was like, they got to trade him. He's an inefficient chucker, blah, blah, blah. He's been the best player on a team that can make the playoffs. That jump to me is bigger. The question is like good player to all-star. With Ja, it was great player to MVP candidate. And there's this idea of like other guys being fringe player to pretty good. Like if the Hornets get themselves together and they keep LaMelo next year, LaMelo's going to be a player candidate. Like that's going to happen. And it doesn't even really matter. Like anyone that's paid attention this year will actually be like, LaMelo's really good last year. Like the team was a joke and his shot selection sucks. But still, like LaMelo was really good last year. And so I think it is a hard award to define. And I do like the NBA tries really hard not to give guidance on the definitions because of conversations like this. This is what they want. But I do think in this instance, it would be really great to be like, hey, we don't mean number one overall pick does what he's supposed to do. Most improved year over year is really hard to quantify and qualitatively assess too. It's a hard award, I think, to get the right answer on.
Yeah, I think you could put Cade Cunningham into this conversation and LaMelo into the conversation of possibly like comeback player of the year, even though, well, I mean, Cade had his injury too, and LaMelo certainly has had his fair share of injury. So maybe the answer here is, and I love this answer, just more awards. If you love this conversation, how about you just give us 2 conversations instead and bring back the comeback player of the year award?
Hayes, can we get a Showed the Haters award? Can we get one of those?
Yes, I can get that. I can get started on that ASAP. I think I already have a list.
Let's go.
Speaking of haters and awards, Joe Mazzulla also had a comment on receiving the Coach of the Month award. He said, quote, "It's the dumbest thing ever," unquote. It wasn't the full quote. He was mentioning that a coaching staff should be awarded as opposed to just a single coach because of all the things they do. So in fairness to Joe Mazzulla, he was making a good point. But also, in fairness to Joe Mazzulla, he makes it in the funniest way possible. It's the dumbest thing ever.
Find yourself someone you love the way that Doug Branson loves quotes from Joe Mazzulla.
I do. I couldn't even save it for my favorite thing of the week next week because it was so good. But trust me, I'll find another one. Don't worry, I will find another one.
I totally agree with them on the assistants thing, though. This is something that generally I wish that we would do more of. If you ever wonder, like, hey, how come I don't hear from more assistant coaches like I do in the NFL? Teams and head coaches don't allow their guys to talk to the media, do interviews, do those things because it risks them being promoted and losing them. And I think it's garbage. And also, like, there's a concern that they'll overshadow the head coach and the head coach will get fired like Taylor Jenkins. And I just think it sucks. Empower your head coach, make him feel secure and confident that he can do the job that he was set out to do. And then let's also hear from the guys that do the work. I want to hear from Ryan Saunders, who's in charge of the Denver defense, about why they were good last year and why they're horrendous this year. I want to hear from teams that make huge offensive strides and what they did to reshape things. We need more insight from coaches. Fans want it. Let's give the assistant coaches more love and exposure in the NBA.
Here's an idea. Another award, Assistant Coach of the Year award. I just want more awards.
Let's go.
All right. If you like what you heard today, you can give us an award by subscribing to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Thanks to Matt and Hayes for their expertise. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other. And we'll see you right back here tomorrow to wrap up the week with our favorite things on Locked On NBA.